There's so many other stories that are making headlines this morning, and in studio with me is Professor Naituli, who has been Professor Gitile Naituli, who was a former NCIC commissioner and of course a regular here on the show, giving us his opinion on some of the stories that are making headlines. We also have Kasim Tandaza, who's a member of parliament for Matungu, as well as Professor Alfred Omenya, a governance expert. Now, Kasim Tandaza is the member of parliament for Matuga constituency, pardon me. Now, Professor Omenya, I cut you short as you were making your point on this situation. Please finish what you were saying.
Yes, thank you so much, Anne. Like I was saying, these two gentlemen actually had no common agenda for the country. And in a way, I'm happy that their marriage failed. You remember in the first term, when they were working together, that is when looting was happening in every single department of government. It is very good that they're not working together because I would dread to imagine where Kenya would be now if there was consensus between them. Yeah, so in a way, I mean, I think it's good because in the absence of any opposition and in the absence of any common agenda for the country, and it's also obvious that what the president is saying in terms of his economic vision is radically different from that of the deputy. The two had nothing in common in the first instance. If I was the deputy, I would resign and concentrate on building my bottom-up, so-called bottom-up economics. Yes, and of course, on the other hand, it is not just the deputy; it's also the president. The president has also failed us. Yeah, because it as the leader of government, it is up to him to ensure that his government functions. He's running the government informally by ignoring his deputy. And I agree this is something that we need to cure quite urgently in law, so that these people who are already conjoined legally in terms of governance should be given express responsibilities, since we know that a lot of governors, the president himself and so on, hope that they get a deputy, they use the deputy to earn votes, and then after they get into power, they shove them aside. They become so-called flower girls as the president and the governors do whatever they want to do. That is bad governance for the country, and I think Parliament need to cure this one.
Indeed.
Thank you so much, Anne.
All right, let's still remain in politics and let's focus on the ODM party. The Daily Nation this morning is focusing on the Jimmy Wanjigi versus Raila battle, and they're asking a question, an interesting question here. They're saying Jimmy Wanjigi versus Raila Odinga, real battle or mere theatrics? Now, ODM leader Raila Odinga's allies are locked in a furious row with businessman Jimmy Wanjigi, whose campaign for the party's presidential ticket has driven a wedge between the two bosom friends. What do you make of this? Is it even serious to begin with, Professor Naituli?
First, let me say something Professor just said there.
Yeah.
He said Ruto and Uhuru have nothing in common, so that justifies the divorce. It doesn't. You don't have to have anything in common to work with one another.
It's a job.
All you have to have is the law. You work with one another in this country.
Yes.
So having said that, I think there's Njime Wanjigi, and the ODM is theatrics, is a plan to penetrate Central Kenya.
Okay.
You see, the ODM has no footing in Central Kenya.
Yes.
So how do you make a footing? You make Wanjigi go out there, run for president, establish offices, establish followership, and then eventually you surrender all that to Raila Odinga for president. So it's a plan.
Okay.
Which is it may work well or it may not work, but there's a plan Wanjege is not a serious candidate.
Yeah, but do you think they would fake a battle, or this what is being referred to as a furious row?
I mean, how do you have a battle with Raila in ODM?
Okay, it's a bit unrealistic, you think?
Yes, very unrealistic.
Okay, Honorable Tandaza, what do you make of this headline? Defiant Wanjigi takes on ODM, takes ODM battle to Raila. Honorable Tandaza, can you hear me?
Yes, Anne. As I was saying, I'm in Parliament on an ANC ticket. My party leader is Musalia Mudavadi. Every party has its own challenges. But when it comes to the issue of Jimmy Wanjigi in ODM, I don't think from where I sit, I would rationally agree with the Professor Naituli that there is no battle there. There is no competition in ODM. We've known Jimmy Wanjigi as a businessman and as a financier of presidential candidates. I know financiers normally don't even fund one political party. The clever ones, and most Kenyan businessmen are clever, so to speak. They will fund one, they will fund two or three. They will normally fund number one and number two, just in case. Whichever wins, then the government, after all, they're there to do business. The idea is not to do politics, but to do business. And this happens all over the world. It's just not unique in Kenya, even in America. So to me, I would agree with the professor that it could be a plan to penetrate the Mount Kenya region. Remember, from what I've seen in central Kenya, and I've moved there with the NC, most of the revolting against the president, they will tell you, you will feel it, that it is not actually just about the president. It's about the perception that the president wants to take Raila into Mount Kenya. And for a long time, it is the same leaders from central Kenya who castigated, who said so many bad things about Raila for so long that now, within a short time, to change that tide, it's not easy. So you come with several strategies, and I believe that is one of them. Whether it's going to succeed or not, with almost 1 year to an election, 11 months, 11 months is a very long time. We'll definitely, so many other aspirants will go in with the different strategies. But in politics, 10 months, 9 months, even 3 months is a very long time. I believe political players be able to penetrate Mount Kenya in one way or the other. More so when they now move into the issue of picking running mate from Mount Kenya, where it initially says those are some of the strategies of getting votes from Mount Kenya.
We're having here, if it's fake, then it's definitely high theater, because we're having here an article that actually goes into detail saying that his latest utterances and actions appear to have jolted Mr. Raila's allies, with ODM Deputy Party Leader Wycliffe Oparanya and National Chair John Mbadi accusing him of running an illegal parallel party operation. ODM Executive Director Oduor Ongwen also insisted Mr. Wanjigi shouldn't portray himself as an aspirant for the party's presidential ticket, since only Governors Oparanya and Hassan Joho submitted applications when the party invited hopefuls. What's happening, Professor Omenya?
Yes, thanks, Anne. Yeah, like Kassim and Prof. Nigeria said, these are actually theatrics within ODM, and the analysis is correct, actually, because ODM as a party is suffering a bit of internal governance and management issues. Meanwhile, of course, the campaigns are on, and Raila particularly is hard pressed to make inroads into central Kenya. We all know anyway that Jimmy is really an non-consequential candidate. But on the other hand, we must also respect Jimmy, because Jimmy is one of the big funders the ODM party. And Jimmy, of course, has taken things into his hands and decided to create this excitement around ODM campaigns. And his way of doing it, I think, is the correct way, since he does not have the full party mandate. He's decided that he himself will actually be that vehicle that will be used immediately as Raila look for votes on the other sides to start creating excitement around particularly the Mount Kenya, but also the youths about the campaigns. Because if you look at it, I mean, Ruto already has his ground game and that's running, but of course ODM is still dilly-dallying, and I think that's where Jimmy comes in with his with Eric Omondi to ensure that the comedy is complete. To reach this particular audience outside there, and start working up the public around Raila's presidency. Note, I've said Raila's presidency, not Jimmy's presidency. Jimmy is just creating an infrastructure, of course, using it for a short time under the guise of campaigns, and all that infrastructure is going to be handed over to the only party candidate and the supreme leader of ODM, Raila Amolo Odinga, the beloved leader of the party. So
okay. So if we were to take a vote,
all the analysis can be done, but at the end of the day, this is just part of the ODM campaigns. And back to you.
Yeah, if we were to take a vote this morning right here in studio, we're having 3 points for theatre and 0 for actual politics happening right here, or truth. And of course, this is something that is ongoing. We shall be keeping an eye on that. But a story that is far from politics has caught my eye this morning. Broke Treasury's borrowing spree. So dire is the debt crisis that for every 3 shillings collected by KRA, 2 shillings is gobbled up by debt. This is according to the Comptroller of Budget. What do you make of this hole that we seem to find ourselves in as a country, Professor?
We are in trouble. And we are in trouble not because this country is not rich, not because Kenyans don't work very hard, but because 90% of us working in the government are thieves. The problem is we borrowed money. Then instead of investing properly so it can produce more resources, we store 3/4 of it. And now because the money we store is not producing, the citizens, we have now dug a hole. It's going to be very hard to get out of this. It's a real mess. And it's a mess not because we borrowed. It's because we store what we borrowed. That is why it's a problem. You see, the corruption has been here for a very long time, if you remember. But the previous corruption did not affect the country as much as this one.
Yes.
Because we are stealing what we are making. But now we are stealing what we are borrowing. There's a difference.
Yeah.
The difference is the cost of that theft. The cost of stealing what you borrow is higher than stealing what you make.
Yes, yes.
That is our problem.
And of course, we have seen this getting even to our pockets because of the hiked fuel prices and all that is happening. When you look at page 14 of the Standard this morning, we're told Controller of Budget pleads with MPs to save country from debt. We're told about the 7.71 trillion is the country's gross public debt. 67.85 billion is the amount Treasury borrowed in the first month of the 2021-2022 financial year. Now, 162.37 billion shillings is the amount spent in debt repayments in the first month of the financial year, and the country's debt has increased from 49% to GDP of GDP in 2013 to 68% in 2022, while the share of the commercial debt has increased from 22% to 36% of the total debt. Now, the Controller of Budget is asking for members of Parliament to actually save the country. Professor, you want to add something?
Now, right there, is you have just put a finger on the problem. Why commercial debt? Because it's easier for the government bureaucrat to steal the commercial debt than to steal the bilateral debt.
For sure.
The bilateral debt, there is enough controls. That's why they shifted borrowing from the long-term, low-interest bilateral and multilateral into commercial, because they can make arrangement from big money to remain in their bank accounts and very little to come here and go into projects.
For sure. Honorable Tandaza, what do you make of this situation, and do you think it is within the MP's powers to actually put a halt to this situation, where there's a saying that says when you find yourself in a hole, stop digging, but it seems that we keep on digging and nothing is coming out of it other than the pain for Wananchi?
Well, whether it is within our power as legislators, I would say yes. But we should also be alive to the fact that this government does not, in most cases, follow the law, even when it is very clear. Remember, there was a time there was a bill in Parliament to put a ceiling to 6 trillion. By the time that bill was through the committee stage, it was being discussed at the committee stage because that's where it starts. The debt had risen to 7 trillion, you see. So what happened? It had to be shifted again to 9 trillion. But that again, certainly, has been surpassed. So even where there is the law, even where Parliament tends to put some brakes, the executive still has its own way of going beyond that. As we are talking now, there is the debt management bill by Honorable Sakwa Bunyasi, which everybody, every legislator, every person, even out there, the economists say this is the bill that could cure our ballooning debt. But the executive is not interested in that bill. I'm sure with the remaining time, that bill will not see light of the day. Remember, when I do a bill, myself as a private member, however much that bill is good for this country, it still goes through the committee, and the committees are normally controlled by the government. They make sure that the chairman is somebody favorable to the executive. They are called sometimes and whipped themselves to be told what they can pass and what they cannot pass. So there are very many good legislative pieces of legislation within the prescripts of Parliament, but I'm quite sure they'll not see the day. And the reason why the government itself is not interested in debt management, in putting those ceilings, I think Professor, I'm not going to repeat what Professor said, they has put it very clearly. We design our projects with stealing in mind. Remember, we've just been discussing about Jimmy, and he's been on national television saying, as a broker himself, when they were initially designing the public, the SGR as a PPP, it was going to cost about less than 50 billion. And what happened after that? It was done at a cost of over 300 billion. So what had changed within that short period of time? And what had changed from a PPP to now a loan? Of course, with a PPP, you cannot steal, basically. But with a loan, I think that's what a professor has said quite clearly. That is where people get to steal this money. And unfortunately, we are not even talking about the money stolen. We are even stealing the little that we generate from within our taxes here. And that is the worst bit of it. And with the trend that we are having now, I think I have to warn myself and fellow Kenyans that there are hard times ahead. The incoming government, I don't think there is that will, because up to now, nobody, apart from my party leader, basically talks about the debt and the issue of corruption. The others are talking about basically how to win votes, and that is the saddest part.
Unfortunately. Yeah, we're having here something by a quote here from CBK Governor Patrick Njoroge, painting a picture of how dire the situation is. He says that Kenya has never defaulted on its public debt since 1963, and this is not the case today.
Very quickly, something here. we are feeling more pain under Jubilee than under all the previous regimes
Yes.
is because stealing the money that the country makes is less efficient.
Yeah.
Than stealing borrowed money. It's more efficient, and therefore the impact on the citizens is much higher.
It's double. Now, let's take a look at Professor Menya, could you weigh in on this as well? That issue that the CBK governor has said we're even defaulting on public debt, and also the hiked fuel prices. We're having here the column by Peter Kimani, who says hiking fuel prices in lean times is akin to blowing fire with water in your mouth, literally pointless. Now, when you look at this situation in the country, it seems like the government has very little regard to the common wananchi, because at the end of the day, all these things boil down to what the common wananchi is feeling. And of course, as promised by Honorable Tandaza, this points to difficult times ahead.
Thanks, Anne. This is something that saddens me at a very personal level. And Prof. Naituli and Honorable Tandaza have actually said it. The borrowing by Jubilee has been problematic from the word go, and we've spoken more than 5 years ago. Every single TV interview, we're saying you are wrong. You're borrowing for the wrong purposes. You've exaggerated the costs of the infrastructure that you're borrowing for several 100% higher. We did actually analyze here the cost of SGR per square meter, and we said, look, this is the most expensive piece of infrastructure anywhere on earth. We analyzed the expressway. We've done many things. And we're saying, look here, we need to balance between our infrastructure and our development areas. We cannot put all our money. We cannot put all our money in long-term infrastructure, which is good, but will not give us returns in the short term. We talked about the nature of loans, saying yes. I mean, let's avoid these commercial loans, because they're unnecessarily expensive. They've got impacts. You are competing with the common wananchi who's trying to survive outside there. With the banks, and you're going to collapse the economy. And every single analyst has told government that they're wrong. Parliament has told government that they're wrong. People within government itself, including our own good governor, Njoroge, went outside there and said, look, I mean, this has to stop. This doesn't make any sense. But we actually have a government run by demons. Despite all these things being said, despite the consequences being felt, despite the economy grinding to a halt, they continue as if nothing is happening to the country. We are lucky that we have a relatively stable country. Under normal circumstances, this government would have been overthrown already.
Absolutely.
And to add insult to injury, we actually continue taxing the same wananchi who's down on his knees, the same wananchi who cannot put food on the table, the same wananchi whose business has been destroyed. Every single day, we come up with new mechanisms of getting money from this wananchi. If it's not fuel tax, it's the cost of bread that has gone up. If it's not the cost of bread, it is a power levy. It is one of the other things. I mean, that's making life totally unbearable for Kenyans. And the government, as Honorable Tandaza has actually put it so clearly there, even the mechanisms that the same government has put in place, parliamentary budget committee that advises on these sort of issues, the debt office within parliament, nobody listens to them. while Parliament is busy trying to figure out how to help government has already surpassed things and proceeded to do things outside of the law. It's very sad for our country. We are running the country on the basis of impunity. It is very, very unfortunate that there's a government that is dying, is a government that wants to actually use all of us to commit suicide. It is totally wrong. And I think Uhuru, within the short term that he actually has, needs to stop this nonsense. It's not too late. He needs to stop all his projects. Because after all, we're not going to get any benefit out of them in the next 5 years or so.
Yes, so, Professor Omega. Yeah, you're using hyperbolic language right there. The government is run by demons and we might all commit suicide. But you are actually describing a very dire situation. And just to look beyond our borders, in Sudan, the revolution actually started with the increase in the prices of bread. And now we know what the leader of the time actually, what happened to him after that, because he's no longer in power and does not have control of that country. So you do have a point in terms of Kenyans are taking a lot in terms of governance and the misdeeds that are directed towards them or that they are paying for. Now, Professor Naituli, I see you itching with a point.
Yeah, the Kenyans also, they are really very largely to blame here. They put these leaders into office. They are never to get leaders who can feel their pain, meaning that they are not feeling their own pain. And this is why you are saying revolutions start elsewhere when the pain increases, but here it's like we are dead when we are still alive. So we are not feeling that pain. We don't elect leaders who can feel our pain. But our advice for the next government, if we can put a good one in place, most of this debt does not have to be paid. There is something in international law called the morality of debt. Okay. The morality of debt, the debt is not supposed to benefit the lender more than the borrower. So all these Chinese debts, because most of the money has gone to bribery, because the Chinese government, these are Chinese government companies. Yes. But the Chinese government in their country, if you involve in corruption, they shoot you. Here they have been bribing our officials. So all you have to do is to challenge all these projects in the International Court of Justice and insist on evaluation of the projects. And then, because the project, most of the money went to fund corruption, they will zero in on the exact amount of money that should have been required on a certain project. That is one the country pays. So these debts don't have to be paid. Some of them we have already paid them, given if they are properly evaluated. So if the next government comes and is a good government, if they select a good government, these Kenyans, and they are not very good at that, then this pain can last only next year. And you challenge all these projects and make sure that what we pay is the real value of the project. And the people who took their money, they can keep it. Yeah. But we just pay the value of the project.
Yes, the value of the project. There's so much being covered, and we're going to go on a short break. We come back.